I was pretending that the abuse wasn't actually a big deal and it shouldn't bother me.
Because you're a man.
Right. I'm a man. Right. And the bullying, that wasn't a big deal, but it was. And I had just been pushing it to the side and suppressing it when really it was 100% killing me inside.
Man, let's jump into the book a little bit and talk about this. So your subtitle is "The Pain Stops When the Truth Starts." And I mean, it gives me goosebumps saying that because it's such a powerful line for so much in our life as men, but specifically when we go through things like abuse. And so what gave you really that revelation for that tagline? Like what gave you that or where was that point of revelation in your journey, when you kind of, took and manifested that into growth as opposed to pain? Did you go through kind of that process of healing and give some guidance of what that looked like to you?
Totally. Yeah. I would classify the book as a memoir, but as you can probably imagine, there are a lot of times where I step into self-reflection and offer up lessons for the reader about how to uncover what's holding them back, right? Because when it comes to getting to the next level in our life, whatever that looks like for you, because it's typically different for everybody, the only thing that's standing in between us and reaching our goals or the next level is resistance. Well, what causes resistance and what keeps it in place? It's typically fear. And where does fear come from? It comes from past experiences. And so, in my work within myself, but also in the work that I do with men, it's in identifying the internal resistance that is ultimately preventing them from taking the action that they need to take to accomplish what they want to accomplish. Right. And a huge part of that is around taking off the mask. Everybody wants the crucifixion, but nobody wants the resurrection. So the minute we identify what it is that you say you want, we have to start the conversation with, well, what's preventing you from achieving that? What's preventing you from getting there? Which is why I think the most important question when it comes to your growth and healing journey is, what have you been doing with your pain?
Mm, yeah. And are you transmuting that pain into something productive, right?
Absolutely. And that's where it kind of becomes conflated because, like I mentioned, for me, I thought I was doing that because I was this high performer, this high achiever. But no matter how much I accomplished, on some level, I still felt empty. And I was left wanting. So I was like, why is that? Right? I'm accomplishing my goals. At the time, I was a really successful corporate healthcare professional, took one of my companies from virtually nothing to a little over $4 million in like 18 months. So boom, rapid success. I was like, why am I unhappy and unfulfilled? Like, I should be thrilled, right? you know, like externally on the outside looking in, you would be like, you're crushing it. And on some level, I was financially and then on paper, but I was still carrying around and recycling this pain that I hadn't fully reconciled from the past. So I was just continuing to carry it around with me. So no matter what goal I accomplished, no matter what level of success I achieved, it was never enough. And of course, my answer at the time was, well, I'll just get to the next level, right? That's where right, that's where my
I just need to
happiness.
do more. I got to do more for
Totally.
myself.
100%. Yeah, I just need it exactly. And that is 100% the ego. Performance is the calculus that the ego best understands. And so it forced me to take an honest look of, okay, despite my success, on some level, I'm unhappy and I'm unfulfilled. And every time I reach the next level, I'm still left feeling the same way. There's that initial high, of course, but I'm still, after a certain period of time, I still return back to kind of feeling the same way. And so that's when I was forced to go internally inside of me to discover those internal barriers and internal resistance that was causing me to be unhappy, unfulfilled, and continue to feel the same way.
Mm. And what was I want to phrase this in a way that we can, gather something maybe a little different from the normal answer, because I know you got different answers for this. So, but what was one of the tools I would say that really got you through or really got you onto the other side of this that you're letting people know about in the book? What's a sneak peek to one of those tools that you use that aside from like the therapy, obviously it's incredibly helpful for people to use, but aside from that, maybe it's something that they can put into practice in their daily lives now if they're reading the book, or if they're listening to this podcast. What is one of those things?
So I don't know if I ever actually offer up this question for people to ponder in the book, but I'll still give it to you because
Oh, you better rewrite it then.
yeah, right. Yeah. Go back and redo it. Hurry up. You
Can
got a
we
few
do
weeks.
additions? Can we do additions?
Um, totally. Yeah. Um, I do know that one of the big questions that spurred things for me was, what am I pretending not to know?
Ooh, I love this.
That was a huge question. What am I pretending not to know? And for me, it was, I was pretending that the abuse wasn't actually a big deal.
Mm, wow.
It wasn't actually a big deal. And it shouldn't bother me.
Because you're a
And that the
man.
bullying, right, I'm a man, right? And the bullying, the my friends making fun of me, that wasn't a big deal, but it was. And I had just been pushing it to the side and suppressing it when really it was 100% killing me inside because all I wanted, all I wanted was to fit in with my friends and be accepted and embraced by them as any 12 or 13-year-old would. And that never really happened. And so of course I was on some level dying inside, but for 15 years until I really started to unpack this when I was 27, 28, I was just pretending that it wasn't a big deal, that it wasn't affecting me, when really it was the basis for the majority of the struggles and the challenges that I was experiencing in my life, despite how successful I was on paper. But if I were to offer something to everybody, I think that'd be a great question to ponder, to journal on, to really chew on, consider, and contemplate. But also, if my greatest strength is a compensating strategy, what is my greatest strength for?
That's really good because you're still never going towards the actual root of anything.
Right? Yeah. My greatest strength became having it all together.
Yeah, 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 and it was just a cover up.
Totally. Yeah. So being successful in business, in terms of my fitness, right? Because I became obsessed with my health and fitness and with athletics. So my greatest strength was having it all together. I don't need anything or anyone to help me out. The consummate lone wolf. Really, that was a compensating strategy. It was an adaptive strategy to prevent that pain, that incident, that abuse from happening again. Because if I have it all together and I have no perceived weakness, you can't touch me.
You have nothing to make fun of.
Totally. You can't hurt me. You have nothing to make fun of. If I'm better at you at sports, if I'm more fit than you at athletics, I always have like a leg up on you. And so that's my greatest strength. And I see this for so many men, is that oftentimes our greatest strength is just an adaptation or an overcompensation to avoid dealing with pain.
Well, it's your greatest weakness actually, because it's your layer of protection of an insecurity that, if you addressed that trauma, that insecurity, then you could actually, transmute that into a real strength because you can confront, you can acknowledge, you can address, you can heal, as opposed to saying, nah, I'm just going to strap this piece of metal on here and just cover that up. And that's going to be it.
You will return to where you once started and you will know it for the first time.
Yeah. Wow, man. That's powerful.
I'm always going to be a driven, assertive person. That's never going to go away.
Sure.
I want to I want to suck the juice out of life, the marrow out of life. I want to, be the best I can be. But now it's no longer a compensating strategy because I've worked through my pain.
Yes.
I've worked through the overcompensation that served as the fuel for my drive and motivation, but that actually had me running away from something.
Well, and this is where, okay, we've talked about a little bit how you address that in the book, but let's go to the main title of the book, Let Love In, right? And this is kind of a paradox for men, right? Let love in. Like your guys are gonna be like, bro, what? I'm sorry. Like love is not in our vocabulary unless it's with our spouse. And even then it's got, conditions, right? So it's let's walk through this a little bit because I'm sure obviously this was part of your healing process was to allow that. And that was obviously hearing your story that was very hard to do because you're constantly trying to protect yourself because of this betrayal, and you were, constantly not letting yourself be seen. So let's address that. Why did that become the title of the book? And then how did you, again, a little bit of a snapshot of the book. We don't want to give everything away. We want people to buy it, but give everybody a little bit of insight of why that became the title and then how you're addressing that in your journey.
Yeah, great question. If everything is either an act of love or a bid for love, then really the biggest question that we get to answer is, what is getting in the way of me both giving and receiving love? We talked about resistance earlier, resistance being the thing that gets in the way of us getting to the next level in our life, getting to the next level in business, going deeper into intimacy and connection in our romantic partnerships. That's driven and motivated by fear. Fear is what had me push love away and put up this shield or this armor so people could get to know me a little bit, but I wouldn't let them all the way in. Like I mentioned, I would let them see certain aspects of me, the ideal qualities and characteristics about me, meanwhile rejecting the less than ideal qualities and characteristics about me. But until you get to know all aspects of something, both light and darkness, you can't say that you actually love it. And so for me to truly experience the love from my family, my parents, my siblings, the love from my friends, the love from my partner, I had to take the walls down that were, again, protecting me from this painful experience happening again. I had to break through the armor that I had unconsciously put on, the masks that I unconsciously took on, if I was going to be able to receive their love and therefore give love back in return.
Yeah, and that in and of itself, I just wrote it down, is was about receiving love. So that is something. Do you address that in the book about, because that's a hard thing for men. It's one thing to give love, and a lot of men show love in a lot of ways. We're taught to show love through sacrifice, right? That's a common theme for masculinity. So I want to address that with you as well. But I want to go to receiving real quick because I think this is one of the hardest things. I know this has been very hard in my life. I'm not a great person when it comes to receiving, even compliments or gratitude. Like I'm not great at receiving that. And so to receive love, to receive this very intimate, soulful connection with somebody, how was that for you to like open up to find that and not try to create like a fraudulent story around it? Like they're just doing it because they have to, right?
A great question. I think it's important to understand that everything in the universe has an opposite: light, dark, night, day. They go together. So if I push away rejection and the possibility of being rejected, what do I simultaneously push away at the same time? Love and acceptance.
Oh yeah, very true.
It's the law of polarity. Everything has an opposite. And so giving and receiving works very similarly. I can only give to the extent that I allow myself to receive. And so for me, when it comes to going deeper into relationship, whether it's with my friends, with my family, with my partner, I'm constantly needing to go in search of the barriers that are getting in the way of me receiving love. That's the foundation. You can't give from an empty cup. And so I have to be able to receive love and increase my capacity to receive love if I hope to be able to increase my capacity to give love in return. And so that's why this work is so essential. It's just like health and fitness. If we don't use it, you lose it. And we go back to our old coping strategies. We go back to our old ways of being, doing, and living because that's what's habituated. It's what we know and it's what we're familiar with. Because for a lot of us, we spent 10, 20, maybe even 30 years reinforcing those behaviors until we really started to invest in our growth, in our personal development journey. For me, it was 15 plus years. I don't know about you. And so ultimately for me it came down to how do I want to live my life and what do I want to receive from other people? Yes, but what do I want to give? What do I want to contribute to others? And knowing that my ability to give to others, to love others, was in direct proportion to my ability to receive from others and receive love from others.